this this will be one of the greater or lesser of important presentations involving signal strength, involving the use of different physical constant quality discussions. For example, a building in disrepair and a building newly constructed not in disrepair. Both face the next 25 years of planetary day-to-day occurrence. Thunder showers, rainstorms, regional experiences, desert not the same as prairie land, prairie land not the same as cityscape, cityscape in the northwestern region, not the same as the southeastern region of any particular nation state, based upon weather patterns and etc. types of planetary occurrences, solar radiation, windstorms, etc. The theory one has then to develop is consistent with a construct. A construct is, for example, a guy who brought me up when I spent time with him on the weekends and pretty much as often as I could. He used to look at me and say, what are you, a pisher? And I didn't understand what he was talking about at first. I just realized a pisher after I asked him what's a pisher. He said a person who has to go to the bathroom often. And I said, you mean to like stare at the mirror or to what? He said, because we were, watching the baseball games that were on television and listening to them. He would do two things at once. He would watch the game with the silent mute function, and he would listen to the Vin Scully reports to the baseball games. Chicoria, those guys. And I found that to be an interesting thing. So when he would say to me, what are you, a pisher? He would kind of smirk a little bit, grandfatherly, and he wouldn't give me an answer. And it was one of those types of things where later the persons whom I grown up around and with would ask me, what does that mean to you? Well, I realized one day what it meant. I had signed on for a ride-along. It's where you move into an area or you move into a region and you don't take the bus commuter route to go around town. You call the local sheriff's department or the local police department and you ask if you can be an attendant for a day. And for approximately 6 to 8 hours, they have you meet them at the subordinate station, and you are not in the back seat of the squad car but in the front seat. And you can have a conversation about the crime rates and things of that nature, hot spots, places to be aware of. I did it when I moved into this house in the Southern California in the Ojai Valley. I did that in the city of Ojai, which all the way down to the avenue near Ventura, not quite to the harbor, but to Main Street near the bus route. I did it to increase the insurance because keep in mind I had titanium newly installed in my leg. I had this eye problem when I was a child, and I had been harmed when I was 36 months of age by a parent in the house, and that person had co-signed, oddly enough, had decided that they would co-sign for the loan for this building, which you can see behind me, and is potentially up for sale, but it is a unique fixer-upper, and I'm not yet deciding whether I'm going to do that or not. I would prefer to be able to potentially build the house outwards from some of the disrepair it's in on my own, but I'm not sure if I can do that at any particular near point in time. It is not the nature of being a pisher. I had to use the restroom very badly that day that I was driving along with the sheriff's department, and the sheriff decided the patroller, whom I don't remember who that was, but I could probably find it as a matter of record. It was 2001 June 27th when the escrow closed and I was able to move into this house. So it was between June, July, and August. September maybe was the latest getting into this house, but I think it was a little bit sooner than that. 9/11/2001 had not occurred, so it was right around that particular time frame. And as a result, he said, "It's not time to take a rest break." And I said, "I understand. I'm not looking for a sheriff's job. I actually have to use the restroom." He said, "We just have to wait. We're almost near Foster Park," and we were about 7 miles away from Foster Park. And he was, patrolling, so he was going down streets and around corners and up other streets. And I was like, And it dawned on me as I'm walking towards Foster Park's bathroom. Finally, oh my God, my bladder's about to explode. And I get to the urinal and I'm like, oh, that's what it means to be a pisher. A guy who's driven around, for instance, a senator, and his driver is saying, "We're not quite to the destination. Can't you hold it? You don't have a milk jug back there?" He's a pisher. He's held hostage almost. Michael Shapiro, the district attorney in Los Angeles, is driven around quite often. He's a pisher. I'm not a pisher. I just don't have a car anymore. I smacked it into a tree and broke my arm. Anyhow, I didn't piss my pants that day either. Here, and keep in mind why I'm showing this. Today's graphic disclosed a unique perception. And on the bottom of it says, public consideration given the first item this morning. I opened my email, and sure enough, there's an email from the state by way of the bank. And it says, "Being stupid, one consideration given the nature of franchise and taxes, specifically to levy and illegally holds. There is a pattern of behavior that is apparently a state-endorsed one, though it is not legal. They are custody, and they realize they're not allowed to take a settlement and place a tax hold on it. Settlements are not capable. Inheritances, they're not allowed to seize those for tax purposes. So this savings account I opened with a $30 auto dialer legal settlement, they went and froze the savings account. So now they can't get their money, and they went and broke another level of the cybersecurity. So I'm looking at them, and I'm saying, with your custody of it, you realize what you did. You're illegal. We'll probably end up going back and forth, but they're pishers. They're now driving along with me, saying, "But we'd really prefer to have our unique eyesight back." And that's Digital Angel, which is an insurance frequency. And I'm explaining to them, you're not getting it back. You illegally froze it as a matter of what you claim you're doing. I can't give it back to you. What am I supposed to do with it? Until that $30.68 sits there, and I can't give them the digital frequency back because they seized it. They didn't lock it at a perfect rate. They went back to like 500 moving floaters and flashes. So the reality is, Mr. Governor Brown, Edmund, he signed a right to death. $400 exchanged hands today. Guaranteed, promised. And 2 signatures from the state went onto some sort of a document, and they demurred. They said, who cares? So they destroyed their own digital frequency again. Even if they have, oddly enough, this USB key I created for you, with all of these various things that I've said here, make this key, pass the information around, get everybody to do it. I don't have any investments because they froze all the damn things. And now they went and embargoed themselves. That's the cloud you want to get into? Okay, does shit trickle downhill is the question. Because if that's the shit, and you can't see the hill, you ain't got any idea how you're going to find conservation, banking, energy awareness, health, wealth. I mean, what's the... And they owe me $9,856 because I responsibly got into them and looking at them and saying, so you had a murder? 2 guys were, like, evidently this particular problem with Medina and Scarmanach that led to Munoz putting herself on trial for the $60 billion railroad train project in California that's corrupt. If it's a rectangle, it's a rectangle. Either way you look at it, there ain't a whole lot of wiggle room in that when you can't figure out where you're going. You want me to fix the TSA for you?
Yeah, I'd probably do that before I can get your digital frequencies back. Most people are like, your teeth are pretty yellow and stained. I'm like, I've been drinking a lot of coffee. The coffee works. And they're like, tobacco? I'm like, I don't use it. I stimulate with it sometimes because it's around, but it doesn't do anything that coffee does a thing. And coffee's actually, in certain quantities supposed to not only keep you awake and alert, but is also a decent capacitator for keeping you from wanting to suicide. And I have a not to suicide contract. So when I looked at my offspring, I said to my oldest son, uh, obviously there's a problem with the way we're listening to things. What kind of training have you been through? And he's like, I'm just not, I'm not at liberty to discuss all that with you. I was like, oh, is that right? Well, it's going to be a shot in the dark. I'll do my best. Okay, you got to get one of them USB thumb drives because I have not purchased any investment activity in it. So we'll figure this out between the two of us eventually. Okay, and I don't know how to see through something like that when you're not allowed to, explain to me what it is you've been trained in. And he's like, yeah, do your best. Just keep me updated. Do those videos, okay? And I was like, do you meet your other siblings? Uh, Celibacy wise, what does that mean? Oh, I don't know. I really don't want to know. Okay, so what I wrote down here at the bottom is, you see this thing right here? That's the B bracket. It's a key, and it goes to X. X goes all the way to the other X. You see it in the corner there? That's called the Pythagorean theorem. That the hypothesis of the triangle is the leg of the triangle. You see the diagonal is equal to the legs. Doesn't seem like it would be, but it is. That's what they say. That the triangle's length will be equal to that. All right. And they have some figure. Well, I figure, okay, you want to get out of this thing here. There's the no key. But if you get into the bracket B, you're not going to be able to get out of the loop. You see, the loop is what's inside the cloud. So if the loop is your digital frequency, and your digital frequency is going around and around and around, and you used an emergency medical technician in 2002 to move a microphone, causing the jury to be disrupted, and you didn't have a just cause to bring the case to trial, did the 100th monkey just wash his yam and the other island's worth of monkeys watched him and laughed? Or did the jury look at the district attorney and say, we had a lesser, why did it go to jury? Why didn't it get dismissed down to the lesser? Wait a minute, didn't we have a jury instruction that if we had a lesser, we had to stop looking at the felonious and come to a decision about the lesser without, as they say in prison, busting a nut on the jury room table? I mean, that's highly irregular to see a juror of 12 persons and 2 alternates stripped down in front of a bailiff and have themselves group sex while deliberating 5.5 hours of a jury trial. It just doesn't happen. However, when a man is a witness visiting his girlfriend, fiance, he's from the East Coast and she's on the West Coast, and she's studying to be a culinary engineer. That's a guy who is using surgical steel knives. We're not talking butter knives that are very sharp, or your grandmother's best that was handed down, a carving knife that's been there for thousands of years already. I mean, you're talking surgical steel, 27 miles offshore, where a guy says, this is what we want for dinner, and it's in a body bag. That's international law. I mean, you got to be a lot of guys to be able to get out of that one. And when you're in a body bag already, if they want to eat your liver, they're going to use surgical steel to cut your cadaver open, and they're going to feed the rest of it as chump into the water. And it has happened before. And I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying that's who he was visiting, was a person who was being trained in how to use that surgical steel to cook your veal parmesan, or your meat and potatoes, or your fish. Okay, so he says to the witness, move that microphone. Now, I'm representing the defense. I don't say anything because I'll use it for an appeal later. I mean, so the second usually comes back as a court and says, we affirm the judgment and decision of the lower court. But you put it to the Ninth Circuit, and they keep looking at the paperwork back and forth, and they're like, what business did you have with 2 forms of titanium in that room, 2 ADA cases, defendant and alleged plaintiff? One of them has intercochleatic implant titanium, the other has knee surgery titanium, and you're claiming that the $20,000 of knee surgery isn't property in the state of California. You also have a person who's written in from Sherman Oaks and is sitting in the courtroom during the arraignment all the way through the end of the trial, who's the person's celibacy, the person who's lived in the same household from him, and he lives in Sherman Oaks, and they say that you don't have any next of kin, nor do you own property in the state of California, and you're looking at them saying, how is that possible? And they say, we just don't care. You got a picture for the district attorney, and this guy who's an emergency medical technician is visiting his fiancée, who's training to be a professional chef with surgical steel knives, and is instructed by the supervising court judge with a jury present. No one has asked. The public defender hasn't asked. I haven't asked. The juries themselves haven't asked. The bailiff did not ask. And yes, the public defender was sitting in the back of the courtroom listening, even though had been removed from actively participating in the judicial trial itself, was deciding to sit there as Greta Van Susteren. Her name is Eleanor Schneer. Well, she's sitting in the back of it. The district attorney, Lotzfeld, she doesn't ask. So the supervising court judge says to an EMT, under oath, who's sworn in, who's already been speaking for over a minute and a half. Now keep in mind, this is over 16 minutes of video time right now. And if you can hear me, I assure you, the audio in the room was not a question. And he says, the jury didn't ask, the bailiff was sitting right there, and he has a felony in custody, alleged felony, on trial. And he says to him, move the microphone closer to you, and the witness does so. The defense would not utilize that as an objection, because if it's overruled, you can't use it in Ninth Circuit or Supreme Court. Now keep in mind, this is a Supreme Court case. Very soon, if not already. And you have the Yates decision in 2014 that comes back and says, why would you ask when you have a felony for a defense attorney in a criminal allegation where you're causing the jurors to believe he's sophisticated enough in criminality to move a microphone by way of an emergency medical technician from New York, where the district attorney deputy from New Jersey has written a letter stating you have now embroiled something called, quote, SCOTT, end quote. But not all forms of SCOTT in her letter are quoted, which means there's something else that the Deputy Attorney General in New Jersey has determined is the SCOTT system, which is now embroiled. And he moves it as if a chef who does broiling of your liver, your cranium, it's okay for Brandlin to move it without the bailiff? How is that possible? Not to have a mistrial. And therefore, when you have a hypothesis that looks like a sharp guillotine, is that preposterous to see this like this? I'm just asking, under oath, I just want you to understand. That's how I see this in the vast Ninth Circuit Court to look. They have 25 years, however, to come back with a ruling. And they might affirm the second, which affirmed the Superior Court, guilt, regardless of a lesser broken restraining order, in light of a restraining order arriving to serve a German Shepherd wolf, bomb sniffer quality intelligence, and then under Sheriff's Patrol serving moi a week later, while writ of habeas corpus has been already handed down from the Ventura Superior Court, claiming that there isn't any quality of stalking, on that, if anything, the behavior is bizarre, which is all they ever said during the court, really, anyway, during trial. My question is, how many of you are prospective jurors right now? How many of you might have to, in the next year, receive a note from the jury services explaining you have to show up and demonstrate cause for not wanting to serve on the jury? My question to you is, if the Wi-Fi and the Zigbee and the XB are not grounded due to fiber optic, you can't figure out which public school does and does not have infrastructure grounding. You can't figure out which parochial school. You can't figure out which homeschooling centers. You can't figure out which private schools How many days and times are you going to sit around wondering if somebody's not attempting to assassinate you who's a supervising court judge and not ask yourself, does that man have syphilis or was he treated for syphilis? I mean, that would be kind of the thing that you would say, if there is everything that you've done, why is there $13,000 of a collections activity? Auto dialers, war Xing, cartel wars, informational wars, wars between two judges that want to be appointed to some sort of superior court or Supreme Court, state, Eastern. And then, of course, you're looking outside of the United States of America where this occurred, and you're wondering whom is an enemy of you? Who is a citizen of the United States of America? Potentially, you would be the first and foremost enemy of yourselves because you allow this type of thing to occur. This is not a maze. That is a significant quality of question. What are you going to do about it? The best I can do is American Civil Liberties Union activist. And that does not put me in a very easy position on top of everything else. When they say I owe them $13,000 and they continue to use auto dialers, but then their cybersecurity breaks, their digital angel frequency breaks, and you're married to one, and then they claim that, oh, well, there's polygamy, so anyway. And you like the demure, and you want to be polygamous, and you like your mistress, your mistri, and by the way, polyester, while it's comfortable, right now, Barry the Blade from the movie The Client looks not to be the worst opportunist if he's going to run for the state governorship, because Edmund has signed a right to death for you to assassinate your children by doing not a damn thing. I want you to pay very careful attention to that before you go freaking out, because there are things that you can do besides shooting up Sandy Hook Elementary School, crying when you see the intrusion detection system, IDS, moving back and forth in your eyesight, because that's what it's looking for. Problems at the level of the court, the state, the governance, and yes, the 44th presidency of the United States of America, to which the 45th has inherited it. And if you say that the United States does not exist, how exactly do you plan to fix it? Mr. European Union? Ms. Russia? Because FLOTUS and POTUS, shucks, I think they're playing that, give me the grip on the other side of it, dear. Have you found my golf glove? I think you left it in your golf bag. I'm not sure. I can't see straight. Oh, that's okay, sweetheart. You demurred. Aren't you supposed to be some tycoon? Oh, no, baby. I gave that up at the 44th level. Why are you sounding like Barack Hussein? Who says I'm sounding like Barack Hussein? I am Barack Hussein. Where you at, baby? You ain't Barack Hussein. No, I'm the 100th monkey. Well, who's a monkey's uncle? Well, I'll be making a video to you, and I'm wondering if you, readership, are in fact a monkey's uncle. What are you going to do about it? Cry? When you're done crying, you got any other plans? I might cry with you. It's been 23 minutes and 10 seconds. Would you break that wood?